This is a special bonus segment that Richard and his friend AJ have no clue that I'm going to throw at them. But, if you know Halftime Howie, I always do things spur of the moment.
We love you.
One thing that Richard and AJ have in common is they both have a great love for aviation. And recently I read a story which I was fascinated about. And I think that Richard and AJ can talk a lot more about it in detail and how extraordinary it truly was. I'll just talk about it a little and then I'll let them expand on it because I know they both know a lot about it. It was a case where a young man was going up for his first training, flight lessons. He was with an instructor, and midway through the flight, his instructor passed out. And this young man, who had never landed a plane in his life, was in charge of landing the plane safely. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rich and AJ to let them expand on this further.
Thank you, Howie. Aviation is one of the most fascinating fields. What got me into it, believe it or not, was a conversation I had when I was a kid with my father about World War II. I asked my dad why you weren't a pilot, because he was always very smart and gifted in mathematics. Back then, the only thing that would get you disqualified from being a pilot was one of two things: a lack of a driver's license or wearing glasses. In my dad's case, it was glasses. My father said anyone could fly a plane if they know how to drive a car. It's very similar. The technology is eerily similar. You just have to extrapolate the data and the surroundings, known as situational awareness. I believe that this individual knew exactly what he was doing by the environment around him. He knew what the yoke meant. He knew what the altimeter meant. He knew what the airspeed indicator meant. And by putting this together and communicating with the air traffic controller on duty at the time, was able to get the knowledge needed to adequately land the aircraft.
Right.
It's not the first time something like this has happened. We have seen in movies where the airline pilot passes out and the co-pilot somehow becomes incapacitated. And the flight attendant winds up asking the passengers, is there anyone on this aircraft with flight experience? Even people like myself who have never been behind the stick of an airplane can figure out how to land any type of plane.
Right.
It's just being able to remain calm, cool and collected, and utilize situational awareness.
There was also a story a couple of years ago where a British, it happened in England, and there was an older British gentleman and his friend who was flying, and his friend was a pilot, and he had a heart attack, and he ended up dying, and the older gentleman basically ended up having to do the same thing. Now, he's never even been on a plane. Well, he's been on a commercial plane, but he's actually never even fathomed to even fly a plane. And he just listened to the air traffic controllers and the RAF, and he managed to land. So, really, it's all about communication with the tower and just remaining calm. And if you realize, he's right, Rich was right. Flying is just like driving. You have the throttle, you have the steering, the yoke, and the altimeter. You just got to. It's a little bit more complicated, but you know what? It's not too much. It's not that much harder. You just have to be calm. The most important thing to do is remain calm, cool, collective, and listen to what the ATC controller says. So,
absolutely. I also think that today, since 9/11, the Air Force has become very prevalent in situations like this. If a pilot, God forbid, becomes incapacitated, it's not unusual to see that state request the Air National Guard to assist. In our state, we have the Air National Guard based out of Syracuse. They operate the F-16 Falcon, which is a single-engine fighter.
Right.
It is not supersonic, but it can be on scene within minutes.
Same in our state. We have Atlantic City in NAFAC, Atlantic City Air Base, with the 177 fighter wing. They also have F-16s there. So anywhere, they got Air Force bases. They got any kind of assistance. As long as you say Mayday, give a Mayday call, then you're in good hands.
And people will ask, what is the purpose of this? it is to keep the pilot relaxed.
Right.
9 out of 10, when they see another aircraft pacing alongside them, they have what's known as peace of mind. They know they're not alone now. They have an expert right next to them that can extrapolate exactly what is happening, provide them the data they need to properly pitch the aircraft, maneuver the aircraft. If the aircraft, for example, has retractable landing gear, the other pilot can instruct this pilot when and how to put the gear down. If the aircraft is a jet, the pilot can tell him how to throttle the engines just enough where he's not too fast, not too slow.
Right.
In the opening of Top Gun, we saw this, when Maverick was giving instructions to Cougar on how to land the F-14 on the deck.
Yeah, and don't forget, a lot of planes today are automated now, so you don't even have to work as hard.
Yep. We have instrument landing systems. We have those devices that you see at airport known as ILS. If you've ever noticed what those strobe lights are,
Yep.
no, they're not there to trigger seizures. They are there to give the pilot indication on how to line the nose wheel with the
Yep.
center of the runway.
Yep.
We have come a long way. Aviation is now more than 100 years old since the Wright brothers, and I expect that the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, AJ and Richard did a great job with that, and the key thing is stay calm. Great job, Richard and AJ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thought you guys-